Welcome back, guys. Everything Apple Pro here. It's been a while. Let's kick off 2021 with some fresh iPhone 13 leaks. There's actually a lot to be excited about, despite the fact that it's technically an S year. So new design on the lens, potentially no port. We've got 120 Hertz, smaller notch, in-screen Touch ID, and so much more to discuss. Now, I've been gone for a while. I'm sure COVID has ruined many of your guys' lives as well. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I'm excited to be back at it, and in particular the iPhone, my fixation, my obsession with improving it and seeing it happen in real time. I can't describe it, but I love the iPhone so much. So I'm very happy to be starting these videos again, monitoring all the changes coming to the next iPhone. And personally, our company, Phonerable, we're about to launch Gen 2 next week, the Crystal series. $30, I believe, will get you the best iPhone case value ever. Quality, durability, this thing is gonna survive any fall. I'm actually very proud of the design, how it looks. And Phonerable.com, sign up for pre-orders. And we are including a FLOLAB screen protector. That's $15 alone. And the Gen 2 Rebel series, which has MagSafe compatibility, is launching later in February. And we'll have listings up here in just a few days, but yeah, thanks for getting us to Gen 2. Thank you for everyone that purchased Gen 1. All right, let's get into the iPhone 13 stuff. First, a report from Takara detailing the iPhone 13 lineup. So overall, it will be very similar for devices, same form factors. They will be slightly thicker, 0.26 millimeters, which is practically unnoticeable. Old cases will likely still work with the new iPhones, except for the fact that the iPhone 12 Pro, the 6.1-inch model, will be adopting the size of the lens from the iPhone 12 Pro Max. So those will be sharing a lens now, which is a considerable camera bump. I've been loving my 12 Pro Max, by the way. And most notable in this report, Takara is saying the iPhone 13s are getting a new look when it comes to the lens. They're likening it to the 2021 iPad Pro, which, by the way, recently CADs have leaked, and it's changing just a little bit, speaker ports, also the camera lens. So essentially it's going to be a flat bump on the camera lens. It'll be raised by 0.9 millimeters and eliminating the protrusions, the individual camera bumps, for a flat, solid surface, likely to be broken by a microphone hole or a flash lens. Otherwise unbroken. They're saying sapphire glass here. Now, how it'll sit on top of the already existing glass on the back of the iPhone, we don't know. So we put a metal border around it in our renderings. I think it looks fantastic, very clean. Johnny Ive's vision of a flat slab of glass further being fulfilled here. And if Apple were to keep very slight protrusions like they did on the 2020 iPad Pro, that's what it would look like. I personally don't like that. I could see them going to just completely flat. Now, whether or not it'll have a completely dark coating is up for grabs, but I'm willing to bet that that's what Apple has been saving that technology for. So it was reported by Ming-Chi Kuo a couple years back, maybe on the 13 Pros, Apple will be darkening that entire slab to minimize the look of the lenses themselves, to give it a very monolithic look, I'd say. So using these indications, we very well might have our first look at the iPhone 13 Pro design. And if you have any doubts, actually a pattern we've noticed is Apple leaves hints in their CAD files. The original iPhone 11 Pro CAD file that leaked had the mic placed to the right as if it were to have a LiDAR sensor. And one particular version of the iPhone 12 mini CAD had a completely flat surface and a flat slab of glass on top, no individual cutouts. So I'm pretty sure Apple was testing this design on the 12 Pro, since it's a more blocky shape, a more blocky lens makes sense. Now, if Apple uses this dark coating on the rear, it's only natural that, of course, they'd want to use it on the front too, as was reported earlier by Jeff Pu. Now, at this point, we're not entirely sure whether or not the 13 and 13 mini will also get this new lens look, but the fact that they're all getting a LiDAR sensor now, so the entire iPhone 13 lineup will have a LiDAR sensor, that's becoming a bigger priority for Apple. It's implied that the lens would look the same or to match the lineup. Now, Mark Gurman of Bloomberg published a massive report on Apple's intentions for 2021 and detailed the iPhone. So let's get into that one. A lot of juicy details here. Now, Gurman begins saying internally, Apple employees are referring to this iPhone release as an S cycle. So not necessarily a big deal, faster, cosmetically improved possibly, which makes sense with the lens. but then goes on to say that Touch ID is still actively being tested for 2021 launch. So it's very possible that iPhone 13s, maybe restricted to the Pro models, will have in-screen Touch ID. And that makes more sense than ever, of course, with the pandemic, life with masks. He also elaborates that Face ID isn't going anywhere. If Apple releases in-screen Touch ID, Face ID is also staying. So potentially even more security, or you can pick one or the other. Gurman goes on saying Apple is still talking about removing the port on one or potentially couple iPhone models this year. And like Kua reported earlier, at least one of the 13 models, the 13 Pro Max, will come without a port. So fully wireless future may be coming early, and with MagSafe, that was a step in that direction, potentially to be improved with this next year's iPhone, but I mean, eventually it's gonna happen. Apple might just wanna bite the bullet and make it happen sooner. In a quick sidetrack to the future, Gurman reports that Apple is still actively testing foldable iPhones. They have several different types. One in particular is an iPhone 12 Pro Max sized version, 6.7 inches, that folds down the middle, so compact like the Galaxy Z Flip. And this one has a visible hinge, very similar to current foldables, so nothing too crazy about it. He says that if Apple were to release a foldable, they'd be years away from doing so, and it's likely that Apple might never release one at all. Going back to the iPhone 13, more good news, a smaller notch. Mactakara reports that this is the year, this one, finally. Apple will be making that notch smaller by combining several components, which Face ID consists of, into one, freeing up some room for them to move the components upwards. And in accordance with this smaller notch, 120 Hz has once again been confirmed by the ELEC. Apple will be using exclusively Samsung panels to bring LTPO displays to the iPhone, which may potentially enable an always-on screen feature, but it's not guaranteed to do so, as the Apple Watch Series 4 had an LTPO display, but it wasn't until the Series 5 that Always On came into play. Battery life is a big factor here. I think 120 Hz is something alone to be very excited about for the iPhone 13. DigiTimes also reports that sensor shift stabilization, so that tech exclusive to the 12 Pro Max on the wide-angle lens, will be coming to the entire iPhone 13 lineup, likely to their wide-angle lenses. Ming-Chi Kuo, meanwhile, says there won't be any major changes coming to the standard wide lens on the iPhone 13 Pro models. It's a very vague report, but essentially most of the changes will be on the ultra-wide sensor, which he previously reported is getting autofocus, a 6-piece element lens, and an even larger aperture at 1.8 from the current 2.4. An older tidbit I missed from John Prosser, iPhone 13 models will have a 1 terabyte size option. I have yet to fill up even half of 512, but it's gonna be good to have. Also, according to Barclays analysts, the iPhone 13 lineup will be adopting the new Wi-Fi 6E standard, which introduces the 6 gigahertz band, so freeing up more bandwidth along with all of the existing Wi-Fi 6 improvements. And an older report from Gurman says that Apple has begun work on its own in-house 5G modem. It will only see the light of day in 2025 due to licensing agreements with Qualcomm. Finally, almost every chip in the iPhone will be developed in-house by Apple. And Ming-Chi Kuo reports that the iPhone 13 will resume its normal release schedule, so announcement in September, potentially release in September or October. It will not be delayed like the iPhone 12 lineup was. And according to DigiTimes, Apple is finally getting into gallium nitride. Long overdue, this technology will allow them to shrink their chargers substantially, potentially up to 35, maybe 50%. Now, as for the silicon powering the future of the iPhone, the Apple A16 in 2023 is predicted to be 4 nanometers. More recently, TSMC is actively testing 3 nanometers. It's possible and will likely release later this year, early next year. Apple will be using 5 nanometers plus though for the Apple A15. A different source says that we'll be seeing 3 nanometers for the Apple A16, which would be even more advanced. Beyond that, quantum processing. Anyone want to take a guess when we'll see it in an iPhone? 2050, 2060, 2070? Will we be alive? And lastly, there's been a lot of buzz about an Apple car. Some are reporting it'll launch in 2024. Both Mark Gurman and Ming-Chi Kuo are saying not likely at least for half a decade, potentially 7 years, but there is some breakthrough technology that Apple has been working on there. So something to look forward to. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Stay tuned, and yeah, we're releasing next week. I'm so excited. Thanks for supporting, and yeah, I'll be back at it with more videos soon. Peace.